So, good evening, Council. My name is Jessica Yaniv. I live in Walnut Grove, and unfortunately, I haven't been so well, so that's why I'm in a wheelchair. I have a brain tumor, so not fun.
Get out. This is a secure area. Get out. Get out.
This is a public space.
No, it's not. Get out.
Yeah, it is.
Get out, or I will pepper spray you.
Excuse
Get
me?
out.
No, don't touch me, man. Don't touch me.
Go out now.
Hey,
Get out.
don't touch
You
my
go
dog.
out. Out you go.
Get out.
She just pulled the fire out.
I did. I am on the phone.
Call
Get in
the
here.
police.
Wow.
Get in here.
I'm not
Get in
scared.
here. Get in. Yeah.
So progressive.
Yeah, so aggressive, hey?
Progressive. Nicely done.
Perfectly timed to coincide with my vacation out of town, a number of prominent people have begun speaking out against Jay Yaniv, mostly having to do with the Canadian human rights complaint he's made against a number of independent salons for their refusal to groom his self-identified as female and yet biologically identifiable as male genitals. Last winter, I was researching his internet presence, specifically how he expressed interest in the feminine hygiene practices of very, very young girls. This led me to Louise, a French woman who had written about JY's involvement with the teen and preteen fans of YouTube girl bands back in 2012 and 2013. She was gracious enough to grant me an interview and has given me permission now to share this publicly in the hopes of heaping even more evidence against this would-be champion of human rights. So here you go.
Basically, I met JY through like a fan base that I was a part of, from 2011 to 2016 or something. And I don't know if you've heard of that band, but they're called Similarly.
Hey, I'm Christina. I'm Catherine. I'm Lisa.
I'm Amy.
I'm Lauren.
I'm Danny.
And we're Similarly.
And they're like a band of like 6 sisters that come from California, and they sing on YouTube, and they were actually like quite famous at some point, and they did covers and stuff. And I was like a very dedicated supporter. And I was also like in my early 20s and quite depressed, and I had nothing better to do than support a girl band on YouTube. So that's what I did. And, I admit my flaws. Everyone has them. I like groups and I like harmonies. Who's going to blame me for that? And so this JY person, it's very hard to to stick to the JY name, because I've talked about this person so often using their name that I knew them as at the time. So yeah, it's weird. Anyway, so this person was volunteering for them to remove spam from their Facebook page. So he was this person was this kind of like tech person, and he was basically, the claim that JY made was that there was a lot of like porn spam on the Similarly Facebook page, which of course, that was going to cause a reaction with the Similarly girls, because they're very Christian, conservative and all that. So of course they didn't want that. So of course they said, oh yes, you can volunteer and try and remove spam from our page. He was interacting with fans as the girls on their Facebook page, presumably with their approval, because he had the password and everything. Okay. And so I don't know if you're very familiar with the world of fandoms and all that, but they're at the time, especially for YouTube bands, fans did a lot of things. I organized tons of shit for Similarly, and so I just messaged their page and I was like, hey, I know it's not the girls, I know you're this person, by the way, your French translation had an issue there. And he was like, I'm Canadian, I speak French. So I was like, I'm French, so I can speak, okay, whatever, I already had enough drama in my life, so I was just like, you know what, do whatever the fuck you want, no, none of my business. So it was just like, oh my god, this person is a douche, really so dumb. And I kept seeing this JY name pop up into other YouTube famous people, and then he'd be like, oh, you should be careful, there are porn bots on your page. And then suddenly porn bots appeared, and then he magically made them disappear. So that was quite sketchy. So I was discussing that with one of my friends via private messages on Twitter. And I was like, oh my god, he's literally so dumb, he annoys me so much. And my friend got hacked by a little girl who was 12 years old at the time that was talking to JY constantly, and basically JY groomed her to be the spy in the fandom. So she would like hack people, and she hacked my friend and took screenshots. And because she didn't like me, she sent like all the screenshots to JY, who made them public and sent like around 500, 600 people from a private promotion group to hate on me, which they did because they thought that this person had connections with the girls. They really wanted to be like, oh, this is a mean girl, we had to like hate on her. And I was like, all of a sudden I was like 21, I think, at the time, and I had like hundreds of kids in my mentions being like, oh, you're so pretty, Jonathan, and he's like so nice. And I was like, what? At first I was a little like, I laughed about it because it was like, that's so ridiculous. But then he started targeting everyone who would defend me. So everyone who would defend me would get like DMCA claims for all their pictures, because like they had like similarly as their cover picture on Twitter. He would remove the pictures saying they had like no right to have these pictures as their picture. And then the little 12-year-old, the one that he had like hack my friend, one day she came to me on Facebook and she was like, look, I know I fucked up, but like I really need to talk to you because like what's happening is really not okay. So I was like, okay, like what is it? And she was like, it's so weird, like he's blackmailing me, he's telling me like really weird sexual things. And I was like, why am I not surprised? But also, what can I do? So I tried to find solutions. I told her to tell her parents, which she did, and her mom like freaked out. But because the little 12-year-old is Canadian, so her mom like didn't want her to like run into any trouble because JY is Canadian too. So she was like, you know what, just like delete everything, block everything, and just like don't really go online anymore. And this little 12-year-old kind of vanished. And it happened with another girl. And I have a screenshot of her telling me, I think like JY has a thing for like younger girls. And I was like, why did you say that? Because I strongly in my heart believed that maybe like I was being biased. I didn't want to like how can I say that? I didn't want my disliking of him to like make me biased towards this person. So I was like, come on, maybe you misinterpreted. But then she was like, no, like literally sends pictures of his dick to people who impersonate the Similarly girls on WhatsApp. Like there was a trend back in the day on WhatsApp and Kik of little people, like little girls mostly, who were pretending to be the Similarly girls. And so he was apparently asked to fight against that. And in order to fight against that, he would like engage in conversation with those people. And while knowing that they were probably underage girls, he would send pictures of his genitalia as a deterrent. Sadly, I never got my hands on those actual screenshots. I mean, sadly, I didn't really particularly want to see that. But also, it would have been good evidence. It's strange because this is a person who I knew as a man at the time and who literally like was abusive towards little girls. I can remember really well that he would, in 2013 or 2014, ask people about like pads and tampons and all those things, but it had nothing to do with like being transgender. I remember I actually have screenshots that I will send you no matter what, of him saying he has like a problem where he wets himself, which is why he has to wear pads. Like initially that was like the number one thing he would say. He would be like, oh, can I wait at the girls' bathroom door just to ask a girl for a pad? And then my friend was like, well, that's creepy, like you're not gonna hang around the girls' bathroom door. And then she was like, and also like, I mean, it's weird to be a guy and ask a girl for a pad. And then he was like, it could be for my girlfriend. And my friend was like, who's gonna believe that though? Like, what?
Then the last conversations we had, he sent me this picture. And you have to keep in mind I was a minor. And this picture. Like out of nowhere, and I was like, okay, what's going on?
I think it's no coincidence that this all happened like in the YouTube world, especially circa 2012, 2013, when like so many cover people wanted to make it and were relying very heavily on very young fans. I think that's like, it's no coincidence. And the fact that he's now jumping on the trans identity bandwagon or something, now that it is quote unquote a trendy issue, I think it's just oh my God, it creeps me out because I know that so many people are going to associate the transgender rights issue with this kind of people who have been doing creepy things and have used the trans cause for
Protection.
Yeah, it's just they're basically using a loophole in the law in their favor, and it's really, I don't know, it really scares me.